I'd like you to imagine that it's 1992, the 3rd of November, and there's a young girl looking out over a beautiful field in front of her. There's a gentle breeze blowing, there are bees buzzing, butterflies flitting from flower to flower, and you can just smell the warmth of summer. Now, she's got a rather confused look on her face, and that's because she's just been given her first holiday job with a very strange set of instructions. They went something like this. Along with that, 10 kilograms of raw emeralds, rough gemstones, double-bagged in cheap plastic, just like this. And the set of instructions was, listen to the stones. Hold them up to your ear, and if they talk to you, they go on the first pile. If they whisper, they go on the second pile. And if they have nothing to say at all, into the field they go. Now, what has that got to do with the price of rare earths? Or the cost of living, or even who's going to be the next leader of the Liberal Party? My premise for you today is that Jupiter is rising. So why is it rising? We have Australia's largest and highest grade clay-hosted rare earths project. That sets us apart. We've got enormous scale, wonderful grade. It is in an incredibly strategic location, and we've made enormous strides in metallurgy. So we're in a very good position. This is what it looks like in comparison with our peers. That green bubble represents all our total rare earths oxide in the global resource, which we released in February this year. Within that, we've got a high-grade component, which is the bit we're really interested in, and that's the pink bubble. You can see that it is far and away outside of everything else in Australia, and it puts us in league with the very best of the Brazilians. All our projects are in Australia. We do have one of the largest undeveloped tin and tungsten projects in Tasmania. We have said that we're going to divest that asset so that we can focus on Jupiter because it is the gem in our crown and what we believe we can deliver the best value for shareholders by advancing. So where is it? As we zoom in, what you're looking at there is a map of Western Australia. On the left-hand side of your screen is the port at Geraldton. We are on that highway all the way through to Mount Magnet. Our licenses are literally sitting on that bitumen highway, and there is a gas pipeline that runs along that highway. We've got transmission power lines within 40 kilometres of site, and you can tell that you can build a mine here. That is at the Golden Grove mine site. So we've got operators and service providers of everything in a cost-competitive sense all around us. We also have, quite unusually for a rare earths company, 2 processing plants in the not-too-distant future or location, certainly by West Australian standards. Lynas has got a plant at Kalgoorlie, where they are processing rare earths, and Iluka have been given a lot of government funding to build a plant just south of Geraldton along the coast there at Eneabba. So very unusual for most companies. And this is what it looks like. Standard West Australia, flat, sort of outback territory. Easy to get around, dry, accessible, and again, right on that bitumen road. We've got 1,600 kilometres of licences, and it's across the deposit 2 Crown pastoral leases. They are minimally stocked with cattle and goats, and we've got year-round access. We do own it outright. Now, this is a lovely story, and this is what Chrissy was alluding to. We made this discovery using free public data. Our team is incredibly experienced. We went searching through the GSWA data and found this anomaly, which is a 40 square kilometre anomaly, and moving from left to right, we thought we'd put a few little holes in and just test it out on station tracks. So we took an air core rig up there. We hit wonderful high-grade mineralisation, which is why you're seeing the pink and red dots up there. And as we moved across that anomaly, the results kept coming very consistently, so we got into this in a big way. We have now done 40 kilometres of drilling. We did that in just 18 months from the discovery, which allowed us to release an enormous resource. And the continuity of the grade is extraordinary. You can see how many of those pink dots are sitting next to each other, which means lower geological risk. As we put that into the block model, the resource was done by SRK because we believe this is a tier 1 asset and we wanted very high quality consultants involved. They took all of that work and delivered this beautiful block model. And you can see that the correlation between those pink and red areas is incredibly consistent. So we are talking about very low geological risk, which is good because in rare earths, your major challenges are always going to be around metallurgy. So if you can reduce the risks in the other areas so you can focus on those, and you've got a large, high-grade project to put into that, you're in a much better position, which is where we are. Now, our global resource is 1.8 billion tonnes at 1,700 parts per million. Within that, the high-grade component is 520 million tonnes at 2,200 parts per million. Really quite exciting. And within that, we've got 280,000 tonnes of the heavies that the Chinese have just placed those exchange control restrictions over. So really high component of all of those minerals that are very highly valued at the moment, and we're seeing quite impressive price hikes as they're starting to move on the dysprosium, terbium, samarium, etc. So this is a 40 square kilometre area, and that's big, but it's pretty hard to put into context. Most of you will be familiar with the SCG, the cricket ground, right? That fits into this area 754 times. This project is quite enormous and really a gem. Now, of course, next steps, what are you looking at? Where might you start? Our 520 million high-grade component, if you're looking at an or very large plant, really in rare earth terms, it's a 5 million tonne per annum plant. That means this represents a 100-year mine life. We just don't need that much. So tonnage isn't our problem. We have a lot of opportunity to make choices about where to start and where the best places are. This is where we did a line of 50-metre drill spacing to give SRK comfort on the continuity of the mineralisation. And what is apparent in this cross-section, which is about that inset at the top, is about 2 kilometres long. That high-grade zone is above 2,000 ppm material, and it is just 6 metres from surface. It's an obvious place to start, but it's not the only one because we have so much choice. So how do we make those choices? Well, we've made it a little harder for ourselves, but also much better for investors, because we didn't just find Jupiter, we made 5 additional discoveries for just $100,000 worth of drilling. And we announced this week that we are going to test a couple of those targets because the government in Western Australia have kindly provided us an EIS grant to fund 50% of those drilling costs. Now, while our drilling costs are low, having some assistance on that is always greatly appreciated. So we're going to start drilling next month at Juno and Aurora. We have seen grades there up to 4,500 ppm TREO. So that's more than double our existing high-grade components, so really quite interesting for us. And the magnet rare earth ratio is 34% there. Now, across Jupiter, it's 23, which is about standard for clay-hosted projects. So to see those very important, the main components in those permanent magnets, those rare earths hitting levels of 34% ratios is incredibly exciting for us. And that's why we want to target these, because we're looking at improving our overall grade, our overall basket price, so that we can be really competitive in international terms. And important to remember that we have very low thorium and uranium. Now, moving into the metallurgy, which is the key component for all of these. We've spent a lot of time understanding our mineralization, deportment specifically, which means where the rare earths are hosted, what minerals they're in and what minerals they are not in, the gangue or the waste. And then we've designed tailor-made metallurgical programs to match that mineralization. What that's meant is we've been able to deliver very successful results quite early on in the piece. And we identified as part of that the ability to beneficiate the product. So we've put all our mineralization into simple float test work, room temperature, standard pH of minimal alkaline at 8.5 pH, and we were able to upgrade the grade by almost 10 times. That means you're making a much more valuable, a 10 times higher value product before you're putting it into the next phase of processing. And we managed to reduce the waste, the gangue, by 95%, and took out 95% of the mass of the product. So we've concentrated our grade into just 5% of the mineralization, which is wonderful for your economics going forward, both in terms of capital and operating costs. So we're really quite excited about that. Why do we think we can do this? Our team. I'm a corporate person. I love turnaround stories, and I got in here to tidy up a company that had been around for a while, rebadge it and bring this to life so that we could bring this Jupiter gem to the market. And that's what we've been doing. That involved changing the board, which included hiring Tim Lindley, our chairman, who's an investment banker based here in Sydney, and Nick Chinotta, who's an engineer who's also on the board of Northern Star and Pilbara Minerals. And these are the sparkling gems that make all of what we do possible, and it's easy for me to stand up here and talk about this wonderful project. Jamie Bird, our CFO and COSEC, keeps us on the straight and narrow. Somebody's got to have that top job. And then we have 3 PhD scientists who really are building the foundations of this wonderful asset. Stuart, who is our lead team manager, of the exploration manager, who leads our technical team. And he's supported by Natalie, who's here at the conference with us. She's got her PhD in geometallurgy, which is very unusual and allows us, she does the work on separating out what minerals host the rare earths and where they need to go into what processes. That information is fed into Hien, who is our metallurgist. She's Vietnamese. She did her PhD in Germany, and you may be aware that the Chinese have done a lot of processing in Vietnam where they have a fair amount of technology for processing rare earths. So those great metallurgical results that we released were actually done in Vietnam. Corporately, we have 2.6 billion shares on issue, almost $6 million in the bank, and we're very well funded to take this forwards. Market cap of 43 million at the moment. So where to next? How do we move this wonderful gem forwards? Firstly, it's drilling. We'll be drilling at Juno and Aurora in the next month, and that'll give us some news flow coming out of that. We're still waiting for results on some diamond drilling that we did as part of our resource definition, and the results will come back. Those go into the fresh rock under the resource. And down the track, we'll also look to drill in some of the high-grade areas as we move towards our resource definition for the upgrade. Metallurgy, we've got 5 labs working at the moment. We're going to continue to work on optimizing the beneficiation, so the concentrate product. Then we take that concentrate product and put it into an MREC process. That's an acronym for mixed rare earth carbonate, which is what's considered to be a saleable product going into the oxide separation phase. And the proof of concept of being able to do that is what enables you to have the conversations with strategic investors, offtake partners, etc. So that is a critical component of what we're doing and a real focus for us. We will then take all of that information and feed it into a resource upgrade, which we'd need ahead of studies. Now, remember that story I told you about the young girl at the beginning of this presentation? That girl was me, and I was well on my way to becoming a doctor when those talking gemstones completely changed my life and headed me down this track. So I'm standing on the stage talking to you now. And like that, Jupiter has the potential to change lives. It really is an extraordinary project. So in closing, my question for you is, will you get on board? And will it change your life?